today. Fighting game narratives are always silly, and ARMS isn't really starting from a favorable position. This is CheckPoint. Welcome to CheckPoint, where this week it is Canadian Thanksgiving. What are you thankful for, Kathleen?
I'm thankful for everyone in the video game industry that keeps doing stupid stuff for us to make fun of, and for Twitch, which allows us to broadcast to you most of the time. What about you?
I'm thankful for the chat and all of our wonderful viewers.
You are such a suck-up.
It's still Subtober. Nintendo is teaming up with Dark Horse to release graphic novels based on fighting game ARMS in 2018. You would be forgiven for thinking that it might be a stretch to spin out the adventures of such gripping characters as Springman, Ribbon Girl, and Mechanica into a full series of comics, but there's a surprising amount of lore in the ARMS universe, I discovered after reading the fan wiki for 5 minutes. You see, having stretchy demon limbs is called the gift of ARMS, and generally happens during the night around age 10, but can happen much later in life or at birth. Apparently, 20% of the world's population has the gift of ARMS, possibly more, as people might not report it. And it's completely unknown what causes it, but it's been happening for at least 1,500 years, possibly closer to 4,000, as ARM havers were revered in ancient times. So yeah, the lore is ripe for exploitation. As for the characters, Springman likes pizza and can eat 12 pizzas at once.
An internet hubbub has gotten an awful racist game canceled and shuttered its developer, proving that there is still some good in this, the worst timeline. Developer Big O Tree, I just said that out loud for the first time. Christ, these people are assholes. By the way, their motto is because being politically correct is so boring, as if the name wasn't enough of a tip-off. Anyhow, the game was called Dirty Chinese Restaurant, and according to the now deleted trailer, the gameplay loop was going to be acting out a bunch of racist and demeaning Chinese stereotypes from the days of yore. At first, Big O Tree tried to double down, defending their work as just jokes lol, according to the now deleted statement on their now deleted website. Our game is mainly satire and comedy, influenced by the classic politically incorrect shows that we grew up watching, such as South Park and All in the Family and Simpsons and Chappelle's Show. And shortly after releasing that statement, they then immediately folded to public pressure, apologized profusely, and wiped their very existence off the internet. To which I say, no! Buckle up, you incompetent xenophobes. If you're going to try and get famous on being prejudiced, you can't just fold like a wet tissue being held by a white idiot crying about reverse racism. You tried very hard to make that game as wretched as possible, and that means you should own it. But instead, you're just asking the press to respect your privacy. This wasn't a bout of youthful high spirits. You fucks planned to make real money by being purposely awful and racist. So why are you scared to face the music now, you cowards? Do you realize that if people find out who you are, they might discriminate against you, not offer you jobs, not want to work with you, like some people do to racial minorities? Damn it, come out and have your learning moment.
Hulu announced this morning it would be partnering with ESL to bring 4 original eSports programs to the streaming service, with production led by veteran Amazing Race producer Brian Hennessy. ESL Replay will be a documentary-style roundup of major esports tournaments. Boot Camp is a weekly doc-series that will follow esports team The Immortals in the lead-up to a major Counter-Strike Go tournament that offers, quote, unprecedented access to the inner workings of an esports team, which I was just as happy to keep at arm's length, but sure, let's see how they poop. Defining Moments is a news magazine show looking at sick plays and important moments in esports history. And finally, Player vs. Player is promised as a gamified debate show where esports casters and influencers will argue for points, culminating in a final challenge, arguing over a classic video game. This is great news for esports fans, as, from what I've seen at least, they spend as much time arguing about esports as they do watching them, and now if they're good enough at arguing, they can win a game show on Hulu. #goals.
Delightful indie hit Golf Story has a not so delightful bug, as it turns out. If a player saves in the Tidy Park clubhouse, they get turned into a bug. I mean, not a real bug, but a tiny ant-sized avatar that can't walk left and can't talk to NPCs, but can climb the walls, probably because they're tiny and bug-sized. Which is kind of fun, except there's no way to reverse the bug, so the only fix is restarting your game from the beginning. A patch is on the way, according to developer Sidebar Games, but consider yourself warned, unless you're doing some sort of really in-character Let's Play YouTube series and you want to give up your golf quest to live out a Jeff Goldblum in the Fly fantasy instead. And if that's your endgame, carry on, I guess, but also send me a link to your Let's Play when it's done.
When Bethesda released a promotional video for the upcoming Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus with the tagline, "Make America Nazi Free Again," you'd have to be pretty clueless not to realize the blowback that it was going to cause from the segment of social media who agree that Nazis are bad but don't think you should just say that. In the context of the game, an alternate universe America is overrun by Nazis, and it's up to the player to make them not be there anymore. But use of the "Make America X Again" meme connects it pretty explicitly to the current day in this actual universe where high-profile neo-Nazi demonstrations have been happening, and those neo-Nazis are really mad that Bethesda is suddenly making a Wolfenstein game all about killing Nazis. When asked for a statement, Bethesda's Pete Hines said, quote, "We don't feel like it's a reach for us to say Nazis are bad and un-American, and we're not worried about being on the right side of history here." Which shouldn't be a controversial statement, especially regarding a game series that has been about fighting Nazis for more than 20 years. But here we are. Bethesda did also receive blowback for Hines' additional comment that, quote, "Bethesda doesn't develop games to make specific statements or incite political discussion," from people who wanted him to take a harder line on the matter. And that seems unfair to Bethesda. Consider the development timeline for this game, which began well before the recent spat of people literally marching with swastikas. Wolfenstein 2 clearly doesn't exist to make any statements on current politics, even if their marketing department is happy to lean into it. Additionally, it shouldn't be a political statement to say that Nazis are bad. It's like the one thing we used to be able to agree on. So our take, fighting Nazis is good. Getting mad at Bethesda for Wolfenstein being Wolfenstein is beyond idiotic, but Bethesda, "Make America X Again" Mad Libs are at worst gross and at best incredibly tired and played out. Just don't.
Aren't you worried about the comment section for today's episode?
No, these videos don't have comments.
They absolutely do!
Why would we do that?
Coming up, finding Cuphead challenging? Well, don't feel too accomplished when you beat it because there's already someone who can beat it using a DDR pad, and they did it with the current 16th fastest registered speedrun time. But please, tell me about how you beat Baroness von Bonbon on your first try.
The thing that amuses me about people getting mad at Bethesda is even if you want to get into a semantic debate about who is and isn't a Nazi, which I do not, for the record, Wolfenstein is about like actual, like the Reich.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not even